Yes, indeed, folks. You're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. Now, we have lots of content to cover, so I'm going to get right on with it. Just a quick reminder that we will be doing the shoutcasting thing just before the Illusion of Choice. So it's going to be coming up right after this segment. If you do not already have the video, go to wcradio.com, get the download link quickly, or get into the IRC by clicking the IRC chat button at the top of the screen and get the download. You're only going to have about 15 minutes to get it if you don't already have it, and if you don't already have it, then you should have been more prepared. You'll never be a Boy Scout. Now, I have an article here that I would like to discuss. We're going back to an old favourite of mine. I love this because it's so ridiculously stupid in every respect. And of course, we're talking about the idea of WoW as an addiction. Oh yes. Recent report somehow managed to get onto major news networks. One must assume that either they are incredibly dumb, or they just didn't have enough stuff to fill in their days in between the ads. Who knows? But it managed to get on major cable networks. It indeed also managed to get itself into the most wonderful, the best, the most literarily fantastic, is that even a word, example of journalism everywhere, the Daily Mail. Oh yes. The best, the best, the best. Now, this article originally came from The Local, which is Sweden's news in English. Assuming that people in English care about Sweden. Evidently we do, to some degree. Now, it's from a foundation called, and let's see if I can pronounce this correctly, Stiftelsen Ungdomsvård, or Youth Care Foundation. All the Swedes are probably emailing me right now saying, Total Biscuit, that was horrendous, you've butchered the English language, please go kill yourself. And if they said the English language, they'd of course be wrong, because that was the Swedish language. And they said this. They work to advocate active alternatives to gaming, and they described the game as the cocaine of the computer games world. They have described it as the most dangerous game in the world, and, quote, according to Sven Rollhangen, who I assume is here to pop you up, he says this: there is not a single case of game addiction that we have worked with in which World of Warcraft has not played a part. Now, there are some interesting, this whole thing was kind of spouted off by the fact that in November 2008, a boy in a town called Laholm in southern Sweden had been admitted to hospital after collapsing following a 20-hour World of Warcraft binge. Now, evidently, of course, this was blamed on the game and not the fact that he spent 20 hours doing a single activity which involved sitting still and staring at a very bright radiation-pumping screen. Of course, that had nothing to do with it at all. Evidently, it must have been the game. If you do anything for 20 hours, you're going to fall over. Good lord. Unless, of course, you're a hardcore like me, in which case you do it after 36 hours. Yes, LAN Party Diablo 2 for the win. Now, the point of the matter is that you cannot blame the game for someone who does something incredibly stupid. Sitting in front of a computer doing the same thing for 20 hours, yes, might make you fall over, especially if you've forgotten essential things like eating, drinking, going to the toilet, sleeping, breathing. All of these things are relatively important for the whole thing known as living. A little bit important. It does actually vary, the story of this. This particular paper says it was 20 hours, someone else will send it to 24, who knows. Anyway, that's not the point. Now, the foundation was founded in 1991 and works with all types of addiction, and since 2007 this has included computer games. The group runs the help website spillfritt.se. Yes, which I assume is neutral, just like Sweden. And of the 2,000 calls received by the foundation in 2007, that's not a lot of calls. 170 concerned computer games. Now, this is the big thing coming up right here. This is the end of the article. According to the Swedish National Institute of Public Health, which is also known as Folkhälsoinstitutet, the problem with computer game addiction is large in Sweden, although there is currently no medical diagnosis of the condition. Okay. Let me just read that again for you. I'm not going to try and pronounce that. I'm not going to butcher it anymore before my Swedish fans hunt me down and have me killed. The problem with computer game addiction is large in Sweden, although there is currently no medical diagnosis of the condition. No medical diagnosis, eh? I wonder what that could mean. Oh yeah, it doesn't exist! It's pseudoscience! It's not real! That's the point! This is the point. Why is this at the footnote of the article? This should be at the start. The first thing, it should be this. World of Warcraft is as addictive as cocaine, this society reports. And the first line should read this: there is currently no medical diagnosis of the condition known as computer game addiction. None. It doesn't exist in the terms of, science and medicine. These two things which I believe are relatively important. As far as I've heard. Maybe I was just mistaken. Who knows? There is no medical diagnosis of this condition. Let me say it again. There is no medical diagnosis of this condition. It doesn't exist. That's the point. This is something that I've covered an awful lot. And it's a simple logical fallacy. And I cannot believe that people seem to ignore this. It's a logical fallacy. 146, right, here's some statistics. 170 calls to this society concerned computer games. And, quote, there is not a single case of game addiction that we have worked with in which World of Warcraft has not played a part. Now, for that to even mean anything, bearing in mind they've come to the conclusion that World of Warcraft is the most dangerous game in the world and is as addictive as cocaine. Crack cocaine. That's a Class A drug that kills people. And is involved in wars in which thousands of people have died. A drug war which involves billions of dollars. Something that is proven to be chemically addictive in one of the most destructive ways imaginable. That has been compared to World of Warcraft. And indeed, apparently World of Warcraft is as bad, according to this particular organisation. For this to even work, you've got to say, right, okay, here's the logic. Because we received 170 calls about computer game addiction from somebody, it doesn't say from who. I can tell you who it will be from in a minute. I will give you a educated guess. And apparently all of them have involved WoW. That means WoW must be incredibly dangerous. Wrong. Because one, that assumes that computer game addiction exists in the first place, which indeed there is no medical diagnosis of the condition, therefore it is pseudoscience. It is a guess. It is a theory not entirely backed up by fact. Maybe when the NHS comes around and says, actually, yes, it's real, it's been researched, and here's the science behind it, then maybe I'll agree with it. Now, because all of these have concerned World of Warcraft, that means that World of Warcraft therefore must be addictive and must be destructive. That's the logic. That is a logical fallacy. Simple as that. Yes, 170 people have called this foundation in 1 year. That 170. That's not a lot, is it? Apparently there's a widespread computer game addiction problem in Sweden, and yet only 170 of them can be bothered to call this foundation. Really? They must be incredibly lax about the whole thing. Now, the people who will have called this, educated guess here, are going to be parents, let's face it. You're looking at people who are like, oh, my child is spending a lot of time in their bedroom as opposed to going outside like normal people and playing hopscotch and hoops and all that kind of thing. All those good old-fashioned, fantastic games. They're not playing sports. Therefore, they are doing all of this stuff. And they're antisocial as a result of this game. And they're unfit as a result of this game. Let's try it another way. Let's mix it up. Can I have a vowel, please, Carol? The answer is this. How about we mix those up a bit? Maybe, just maybe, they are not unhealthy because of the game. They are not antisocial because of the game. They play the game because they are unhealthy and antisocial. They have social problems in real life, therefore they turn to another social outlet. It is not natural or healthy for someone to not have any social activity of any kind. Social interaction is vital to the human condition. Yet, because of technology, there have been an increasing number of ways in order to carry it out. Whereas before, this kind of thing could not have happened. You couldn't talk to someone across the Atlantic 200 years ago. You had to send a letter. You couldn't do that. You certainly couldn't play games with them in real time. You couldn't have voice chat. Heck no. None of this stuff existed. And yet, the whole point is, well, there's two things. Conversing with another human being and engaging in an activity with more than one person. These are two vital social activities that most normal people, if not all normal people, that being the point, do. Now, why exactly do you think that your kid isn't too enthusiastic about sports? Maybe because he's not very good at them, and maybe because he's not very fit. There is a stigma, a massive stigma attached to people who are not good at sports, especially among children. Most of the bullying, most of the major humiliations involved physical education and sports, classically speaking. People who weren't good at football were generally not very popular. People who weren't good at baseball, not very popular. People who weren't good at basketball. People who just were not good at sports at all, not very popular in school. I know this because I wasn't good at anything. I was only good at one sport, and the school didn't play it. That sport was squash. I love squash. Squash is an awesome sport. But it's the only sport that I really enjoy playing. I'm not very good at other sports, and to be honest, I'm not a big fan of them anyway. I only like squash. Now, why on earth, in a million years, would I want to, say I was a 13-year-old kid. Say it was all the way back 11 years ago in the mists of time, I was a 13-year-old child. Why on earth, in a million years, would I willingly go out of my way to go and play something I'm not very good at with people who are going to mock me for it? If I'm unfit, if I'm a little bit pudgy, I'm a little bit short, not particularly good at sports, why on earth, in a million years, would I subject myself to that? Well, especially considering you're already no doubt subjected to that enough at school to begin with. Why would you willingly go out of your way to put yourself through pain? Are you a masochist? Because last I checked, masochism is a condition, and that is a problem. No, what you will do is you will get your social outlet in another way, and the way to do that is through multiplayer gaming, because you don't have that stigma. Your appearance is irrelevant online. Your voice is irrelevant online. If you have a squeaky voice, you can just type. Your shyness, irrelevant online. You don't have to see anybody. You don't have to go face to face. You don't have to worry about body language, and you don't have to worry about being good at sports. You can be good at games instead. And yes, there is a stigma about not being good with games in gaming communities, but it's more easy to avoid. If you don't like a gaming community, you just have to press the off button. You can't do that in real life. You can't simply turn off the mockery if you're stuck at school in physical education, which you are mandated to do, and you're not very good at sports. Now, yes, I agree. Children should be certainly should be encouraged to do healthy stuff. They should be eating healthy, they should be doing physical activity, but that does not have to involve sports. By any stretch of the imagination. It can involve cycling, it can involve swimming, it can involve walking, it can involve all manner of things. For God's sake, if most kids just went out and walked the dog for 30 minutes a day, they would be way trimmer, way healthier, way fitter than they are now. Good Lord, I came back from the States and I must have dropped like 10 to 20 pounds already. You know, my legs have muscles in them again. My waistline's gone down 2 sizes. Why? Because I'm walking again. I wasn't in the States because we had cars. This is the problem with the US. They're car-driven. Well, their entire economy is based on motor vehicles. Whereas here, I walk at least a mile a day, if not more, to and from work. Now, I use public transport for most of it, but a lot of it I do walk. So I'm fitter, I'm healthier. I don't have to take part in sports in order to do that. No, I come home and sit on my arse all day and play WoW. Does it mean I'm not fit and healthy? No, because I eat properly and because I'm walking. You don't have to do sports. Kids who don't want to get involved in sports generally have made that decision themselves. It's not because they are unaware of sports existing. Now, just because they're playing a lot of games does not mean they are addicted to said games. That is their pastime. That is their pastime, and that's what they want to do. I spend a lot of time playing games. I don't get jitters when I'm away from the computer. Sure, I might want to play games, but I'm not at the computer. That's natural. I enjoy doing it. If I'm at work, why on earth would I want to be saying, oh, work's so awesome. I wish I could stay here instead of going home and playing Dawn of War 2. No! Absolutely not. That's ridiculous to assume that could even be the case. Everybody at school, everyone that I know, I remember being a kid back at school, and the only thing I wanted to do was go home and do something fun. And every kid was like that. I want to go home and watch TV. Want to go watch a DVD. Want to go outside play sports. Want to go hang out with my mates. Want to go play computer games. I want to do all of these things. That's what kids do. They get engrossed in activities like that. And that's fine. Diversity should be encouraged, absolutely, don't get me wrong, but do not accuse kids, or indeed anybody else, this includes adults that play a lot of, say, World of Warcraft or any game, of addiction, because addiction has a specific stigma. An addict is looked down upon by society in general as someone who was weak-willed and got involved in something they shouldn't have been involved in, and is now, their life is not their own anymore. It is under the control of another substance, whether it be a drug or whatever. They are looked down upon. There's a stigma attached to it. Attaching that stigma to someone and saying that this is something you can just cure, you cannot cure that. You cannot cure somebody's personality. If someone is shy, you can't just go ahead and cure it. You can't pop a pill and say, I'm not shy anymore. You can encourage them. That's what you should be doing. Encourage them to diversify, but do not attach this label and this stigma. Do not make them feel guilty for doing something that they want to do. It is vomit-worthy. It is utterly unhealthy. And I cannot believe that anyone with morals could possibly, in a million years, want to attach that stigma to a child. You are an addict. You have allowed yourself to get to this level. You are the lowest of the low, and we're now going to fix you with drugs. It's a disgusting idea. Absolute disgrace. I would love any guy from that foundation to come and debate me on this issue. I really would. Because it is absolutely disgraceful. Indeed, anyone who wants to debate me on this issue, email themurloc@gmail.com. We will set it up. I am always up for a challenge. My name is Total Biscuit, and you listen to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. When we come back after the break, it's time for Play-by-Play. Oh yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully you are too. I'm going to play you a little bit of Within Temptation. This is The Howling, and I'll be right back after this. Enjoy.